Hi everyone, welcome back to Numerics with Nadia. In today's lesson, we're going to go over how to add and subtract fractions with different denominators. We're going to build off of the last two foundational videos we've covered thus far. The first one being what are fractions, and the last one being how to subtract and add fractions with the same denominators. Now, in this video, we're going to go over what happens when we have different denominators, and that's going to add just one more layer to the problem and give us one extra step. But other than that, it's still the same foundation that we went over last video. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I would recommend watching that video before this video. Now, what do we do when we want to add or subtract fractions with different denominators? What we need to do is we need to find a common denominator. Now, what does that mean? What is Miss Nadia talking about? We're going to introduce a new topic that I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with yet, but we're going to cover it in this video. The way you find a common denominator is using what's called the least common multiple. And we, in shorthand, describe the least common multiple as the LCM. So let's go ahead and define what this new term, the least common multiple or LCM, even means and how we're going to use it and how it relates to making a common denominator for our fractions. So the least common multiple can be defined as the smallest positive number that is a multiple of two or more integers. And just to clarify and define the term, an integer is a number that is not a fraction, also known as just a whole number. So it might be a little bit unclear on how we're actually going to apply this from the definition alone. So let's go through and try a few examples just so we understand the steps here. So let's start with 1/3 plus 1/4. So unlike before, we have different denominators here, right? So our step one, we want to find a common denominator. To do that, we have to find the least common multiple of 3 and 4. So all we are going to do here is find the multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. We'll do the same for 4 as well. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. Now that we've listed the multiples of both of our denominators, we're going to look at them and try and find the least common multiple, which here would be 12. And for the 3, we get 12 by multiplying 3 by 4. And for 4, we get 12 by multiplying 4 times 3. And we're going to use this in our next step. So with our least common multiple now, we're going to take the original fraction we were given. So let's look at 1/3. And we want to make the 1/3 and the 1/4 have a common denominator of our least common multiple of 12. So how did we turn how can we make 3 into 12? We would multiply by 4, right? That's why we wrote the times 4 up there. So we'll multiply by 4 top and bottom, okay? Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So we already know that 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 1 will give us 4 on the numerator. So 1/3 and 4/12 are equivalent fractions, but now we have a denominator of 12, which will allow us to add it. So now let's apply these steps again to our fraction of 1/4. So just like we showed above, in order to get our 1/4 denominator to be 12, we're going to have to multiply by 3 top and bottom, right? Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator as well. So 3 times 4 just gives us 12, and our new numerator here would be 3/12. So what we've done up until this point is find our least common multiple of our denominators, 3 and 4. We found it to be 12, we converted them, and now we have common denominators, so we'll be able to add across just like before, numerator plus numerator, denominators just carry through. So we'll get 4/12 plus 3/12 to equal 7/12. I know that the least common multiple and common denominator part of these questions is the most difficult part, so let's go through and do another adding example. So in this one, we'll have 2/7 plus 1/4. So different denominators again, right? We have one with a 7, one with a 4. So we're going to go through and find the least common multiple of 7 and 4. Just like before, we're going to write our numbers, and we're going to also go out to about 5 or 6 multiples of them, check it out, and then if we need to, we can go further. So for 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. So we'll start there. For 7, we'll have 7, 14, 21, 28, and so on. Right now, we don't have enough multiples, right? Nothing is in common, so we can go further out for both the 7 and the 4. If we go out more for the 4, we'll have 4 times 6, right? 24, 4 times 7, 28. Now we have a number that matches for both the 7 and the 4. It would be the 28. Now for the 7, that was 4 multiples out, and we know that 7 times 4 gives us 28. And same thing goes for our 4. 4 was 7 multiples, so we know that 4 times 7 gives us 28. And this is helpful for us in the later steps. So now we've found our least common multiple of 28, so let's go through and create common denominators for our fractions. So to start, we have 2/7. In order to make the 7 into a 28, we're going to look above. We have to do 7 times 4, because that's the number of multiples we did. So same thing to the numerator and the denominator. We'll multiply by 4 top and bottom. Our denominator will be 28, and our new numerator will be 8. So 2/7 is equivalent to 8/28. Let's do the same thing for 1/4. We want to make the 4 into a 28, so we have the same denominator. To do that, we'll look above. We have to multiply by that 7. So multiply by 7 top and bottom. 7 times 4 gives us the denominator of 28, which is great. And we'll also go through and do the same for our numerator. We'll get 7 times 1 will just give us 7 for our numerator. Now that we've converted our initial fractions into fractions with common denominators, we can go ahead and add, just like we did in our last video. We'll go through and we'll add our 8/28 to our 7/28. And to do this, we add our numerators together and carry our denominator through. 8 plus 7 will give us 15, and the 28 carries through, so we get 8/28 plus 7/28 equals 15/28. Now that we've done 2 adding examples, let's go through and do a subtracting example. So for this one, let's do 12 over 21 minus 1/3. So same steps as before. Let's look at our denominators. We have a 21 and a 3. And the 21 is a little bit larger. So when we go through our next step of finding the multiples of 3 and 21, we'll start with the smaller number first. So starting with 3, let's go through and find our multiples. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. So what we see here is that we don't really need to touch the 21. What I can do is adjust my 3 to turn the 3 into a 21 and have my common denominator. To get the 3 to the 21, I have to just multiply by 7. But the 12 over 21 is going to stay the same. And the 1/3, let's go through and multiply our top and bottom by 7. So again, we don't need to touch the 21 because its first multiple already is 21, and that's our least common multiple, our common denominator. But for the 3, we'll multiply the 3 by 7 to get it to be 21. So the 12 over 21 stays the same, and we'll multiply the 3 times 7, top and bottom. The 3 times the 7 gives us our denominator of 21. 7 times 1 gives us 7. So now we've converted the 1/3 to 7 over 21 as our equivalent fraction. Now we'll go through and just subtract like we did in our last video. 12 minus 7 gives us 5. 21 will just carry over. So our answer will be 5 over 21. So this concludes our how to add and subtract fractions with different denominators video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you guys have any additional questions, want more practice, or have any other topics you're struggling with, please write them and comment them down below.